What's going on YouTube? It's Private KJ back here with another NBA video. Today we're going to be talking about Mike Conley and if he deserved to make the All-Star team over two particular players that I really want to strongly talk about. So let's just get right into this. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you never miss a beat, okay? Live stream should be tomorrow, Saturday. I'll see if I can get OXcartii to kind of join us in, but if not, maybe I'll just be going solo for tomorrow. Just stay tuned. I leave, let's see, March 30th, so I don't really remember how many days, but we're counting down the days, so I leave. And when I get back, I promise you, it'll be truly grind season. I just found out that the Army has been able to pay for the rest of my colleges, so I am truly blessed to receive that kind of fund from them. And so what I'm hoping is from this kind of bonus check that I will be receiving, I can put partially like some sort of small percentage of that check into building a better setup so that you guys can enjoy my videos even more. So that's just kind of what's going around in my life. Hit me up in the comment section. I like to get to know you guys. What's going on with you guys? How's your day been? Little stuff like that. But anyways, let's get right into the Mike Conley video. So I'm first going to talk about Mike Conley and his stats. This is just looking at basic stats on basketballreference.com. I'm not going to deep dive too much into the stats. I'm going to more talk about what I believe. And so here's what I have so far. So Mike Conley is actually averaging 16 points, I'd round up to 6 assists, 3.5 rebounds on 44% shooting from the field. No, I'm sorry. 44% shooting from the field and 42% shooting from three, 83% from the free throw line, okay? He's been a very efficient scorer on effective field goal percentage, 55.5%. Now, when you talk about Mike Conley, the thing that resonates with me is I understand how good he is, but when it comes to specifically the Utah Jazz, the first thing I think about is Quinn Snyder in the system. And that is not to take a knock against anyone such as Joe Ingles, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert. Donovan Mitchell's still a star, so I'll kind of leave him out of this. George Niang, Bogdanovich, all of them are good players. But let's not act like their ceiling is heightened because of that system and how good Quinn Snyder has been this year. With the system put in place defensively and offensively. I had this YouTuber, I forget his thing. I forget his name, but he was talking about how Joe Ingles is so important to that team, and I completely agree with everything he said. Okay, except for the fact that he said he was a poor defensive player. I actually don't believe that. I think he's better. I think he's actually a solid team defender, but one-on-one defensively, I can understand he's a step slower due to age and stuff like that. I do understand that part, but he was talking about how Joe Ingles is a very underrated playmaker and a deadly playmaker for this team, especially since he's coming off the bench now. He talked about how his floor spacing is key, how he's able to move the ball, and stuff like that. And I put down in his comment section, I 100% agree with everything you just said. The only thing is, I wouldn't go to say it so far as he's just such an important player that he's the make or break player for this team. Because at the end of the day, I do understand that Joe Ingles is kind of like that glue of the team. I do get that. But for the make or break kind of thing, I kind of get the sense, I was like, well, hold on, because they have so many just really good role players that fit well together. They have been playing for a while. Let's not act like Bogdanovich after that kind of slump when he came back from injury, hasn't been tearing it up. Okay, let's not act like Mike Conley hasn't been great all season. Let's not act like Rudy Gobert's defensive paint presence is a factor in itself, regardless if he even gets the stats in any specific game. So I just want to kind of point that out. But Mike Conley, I kind of talk about the video if he deserves to be mentioned in the All-Star game. Next up, though, we have DeMar DeRozan, and boy, have I shown a lot of love to DeMar DeRozan this year. I might be one of the only people who actually, at the beginning of the season, who thought that it was completely BS how ESPN ranked him at the 84 spot. Now, I understand the actual YouTubers that paid attention to basketball knew it was BS, but I feel like I was the only person that really was like, why is he, was really vocal about it, okay? He's averaging 20 points, 7 assists, and about 5 rebounds. Not so great from the three-point line, only shooting about 31%, but he's shooting I'll round down to 48% from the field. I saw a stat on basketball coverage on Instagram. Apparently, DeMar DeRozan has a better Shai and DeMar DeRozan have better what's it called? True shooting percentages than Mike Conley. Now I need to go dig into that if that's actually true, because I would actually be shocked that was true because of how poor DeMar's 3-point percentage is. But neither here or there. If that is true, that is a very interesting stat to look at. Now, my case for DeMar DeRozan is, although he's still not a great defender, he has at least somewhat improved. I'll give him that. Like at the end of the day, there's levels to certain things. He's still not a good defender by any means, but he's at least a passable, serviceable defender when he wants to be. I mean, that's just the best I can really give him. It is what it is. Mike Conley's at least a solid, good defender, But DeMar DeRozan, it has been so underrated how he's led this San Antonio Spurs team. And yes, I mean led this team, okay? I understand that Greg Popovich is the greatest coach of all time. I understand that the Spurs system, like I talked with Mike Conley in the system, I understand that Spurs system is great. But let's just keep it a buck, okay? The Utah Jazz is a much more talented team than the San Antonio Spurs, okay? Now, I understand they got Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, maybe Lonnie Walker if he we can talk about a separate thing. Lonnie Walker, if you want to kind of put him in that. Lucas Samanic, I think I might have butchered that last name. They have some young players who I think can kind of develop. But I think it's kind of a mix-up that's better in leadership, where they have LaMarcus Aldridge, who albeit hasn't been that great this season. Let me add that. Trey Lyles, who's actually been tearing it up the past couple games out of nowhere. Let's see if he can sustain that. Let's see. Jakob Poeltl, who's might just be the most underrated center in the league, okay? When it comes to just the basics, boring big man stuff, okay? He's been very good for this team. Kind of those type of players. Patty Mills. Why am I forgetting Patty Mills? Patty Mills, the most steady, he's just such a good role player for Spurs his entire career. That he's been such a great player this year. Players like that. And when I think of DeMar DeRozan, we always known that when DeMar DeRozan is not on, he kind of just turns into this volume scorer who's not efficient. Well, if you actually watch the San Antonio Spurs game, because I've actually really enjoyed watching them, DeMar DeRozan has actually been, and I kid you not, has been, I'd probably say, a tick below elite in the playmaking category, okay? I would put him above average, if that makes sense. I know I just said above twice. Like a tick above average and a tick below elite. If you watch him, he's truly been a really great playmaker in the league. I wouldn't put him with the Currys or wow, I can't think of elite playmakers. That's pathetic. Wow. Anyways, we're not going to get into that. I'm just kind of going dumb right now. But DeMar DeRozan, albeit, has been an elite playmaker. And I'm going to kind of stick with that. Shai is next, okay? I'm going to come back to DeMar DeRozan. Just be ready for that. Shai is next, though. He's averaging 23 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds on 41% from the 3 and 51% from the field. And 79% from the free throw line. Shai has been a beast this year, okay? Now, I have this discussion with my boy Cardi because he's a huge Thunder fan, okay? He will ride or die with Shai, okay? He believes that Shai is better than so many people in the All-Star team that made it. We don't need to get into that right now. But what I want to talk about is how the fact that I understand that the Thunder are not a good team really this year. But let's not act like Shai is the reason why they've been competitive this year, okay? Shai has been so good this year and so efficient. The two knocks on Shai, but we'll get to that later. I want to talk about the positive, okay? He's a good, above average defender. He's a great, he's a great defender, okay? He can guard basically 1 through, I'd say 3, depending on how big your 3 is really, because he's kind of a skinnier player, okay? He's a crafty finisher. He's a crafty ball handler. He's not a great isoer, but he knows when and where to pick his shots, which is something you can appreciate. He's an above-average playmaker, I would say. He's a great rebounder for the 1/2. I would rather have him as a 2, but a 1/2. Now, albeit, let's not act like George Hill not playing that much this year hasn't affected this Thunder team. Because I understand he is up there in age, and George Hill's nothing special, but George Hill can shoot, and he can pass, and he can defend. That's all you need from your starting point guard at the bare minimum. Okay, and he can do all those three at a really good level. Okay, he's a great shooter. He is a solid defender. Not what he used to be, but he still can defend. Let's not act like he's washed, and he can play make. Like, let's not act like George Hill not being there has been able to not affect Shea, but I truly believe Shea would actually be a little bit better. The assists would be down, I believe. I think the points would be up just a little bit, in my opinion. Now, with that said, he's still shooting 51% from the field and 41% from three. That is ridiculous, okay? 50, 40, and 2. Unfortunately, 79% from the free throw line. He's not having that 90 season, but Shea has been good. His effective field goal percentage is 57.6, higher than what's his name, Mike Conley. And I did mention, I like I said, I saw basketball coverage, and I don't know if this is actually true. I have to really look into it. Shea and DeMar have a better true shooting percentage than Mike Conley. Now, for the overall topic of the discussion, if you say to me, does Mike Conley deserve to be the All-Star team over Shea and DeMar? Hell no. Everyone understands that. No, no, no. But if you ask me, do I care that Mike Conley's in the All-Star team? No, I don't. And let me explain why. All this, I understand people are annoyed. It's like, wow, you really got Mike Conley in just because he hasn't made an All-Star team. People understand that. But let's not act like for the past, what are we going to say, 6 years, that Mike Conley got stuck from being an All-Star team. There was just rage. We're like, come on, get Mike Conley in one All-Star team. Because in his prime, Conley, you could really debate that he should have deserved at least an All-Star reserve. And everyone would be like, nah, get Mike Conley in. And now that it finally happens, that he's forced in, everyone throws a temper tantrum about it. So that's just really ironic to me. Now, albeit it came at the expense of two players that deserve it ahead of them, I understand that. Whereas in his prime, you could have actually made a legitimate case that he should have made it. But I'm not going to sit here and complain that Mike Conley made it when there's multiple players there's multiple people that really complained throughout his entire career when he didn't make it. Now, if I had to choose between DeMar and Shea, wow, okay, this should be tough. And I know Brandon's not gonna like this, but I think I would have to slide with DeMar DeRozan, okay? I understand that Shea's averaging better stats technically outside of the assist department, but I just think when you're leading your team to the 4 seed, when everyone expected the Spurs to not make the playoffs in the difficult West, they're exceeding expectations. And I understand that there were no expectations set on the Thunder, and for what you want to call it, they kind of have somewhat exceeded expectations. I don't know. I just think that, and I kind of want to explain this to him. I would legitimately, strictly just this season, I would actually still take DeMar over Shea, and let me explain why. Brendan talks about how Shea's on this bad team, and they're the only reason why they're that good. Now, I would actually make the case that a 2020, 2021 DeMar DeRozan, strictly this season, I'm not talking any other year because this is the first year he's actually been a really good playmaker. I would actually, honestly, put him on the Thunder team. And I actually believe they would have at least like 1 to 2 more wins. Nothing much, but I do think he'd be just as good, if not better. And let me explain why, okay? My one knock on Shea, which will stay until he kind of fixes this issue, I don't trust Shea to get consistent buckets when his team desperately needs it. In crunch time, he's shown that he can actually be clutch. He's a crafty player. He knows when to pick his spots. But there's a certain level of aggression that I like to see out of your best player, regardless if I think Shea is number 1 or number 2 option, because I don't think DeMar is number 1 option. But I think DeMar is better at, you know what, you tell him, go get me buckets, or our team's down by 8. We have no flow to the offense, or we need buckets, okay, because like the offense just isn't clicking right now. Go do your thing. Go kind of get us back in the game. I know, this is my personal opinion, because I think Shea is underrated in that aspect. I'm not saying Shea's not a killer, but I think that I could trust DeMar DeRozan more than Shea. And maybe that's just because DeMar's been in the league longer. Maybe I'm being a little biased towards that. But that's just my personal opinion. Albeit, though, Shea's averaging about 3 more points per game. I think that DeMar DeRozan, especially this year because he used to just be, I think, an overrated mid-range scorer. He'd be good, but not great. I think he's actually been great this year, by the way, in the mid-range game. I think I can rely on DeMar to kind of get me buckets instead of Shea reliably. Whereas I feel like Shea sometimes is a product of the offense at times. And I'm not saying all the time Shea's just like not aggressive, but like I just remember there's plenty of games where I'll watch and the Thunder are down by, let's say, like 15. And like I said, there's been plenty of games where Shea leads the comeback and they pull off plenty of comebacks. But Shea will have 8 points on really good efficiency in the second, at late second in the quarter, about to go to halftime. And I'm like, okay, the Thunder need bucket. Like, they need to find a way to get their offense going. You, as that best player, need to be the guy to lead that way, okay? I'm not saying it needs to be that all the time. I understand it's a team sport game, but you, as the best player, need to lead that charge a lot of the times. And it just seems to me that Shea is, I'll say, complacent sometimes with kind of standing in the corner or kind of moving off ball while people who are handling the ball like Kenrick Williams, who shouldn't be handling the ball, people like Al Horford, who is taking too many shots, albeit he's still a good, solid player. He's not what he used to be. Shouldn't be taking as many shots. Sometimes I believe where I see him jack up like 15 shots. I'm like, no, those shots need to go to Shea. No, that should be Shea's shot. And I talked about it with Brendan as well, how their fourth quarter offense a lot of times just seems like everyone stands around pick and roll ISO. Just fourth quarter end of games that's just kind of what I've seen somewhat from the Thunder. Now, I do not watch the Thunder every single game, so maybe I'm a little bit flawed, but that's just what I've seen based off the games that I've watched. Maybe it's just ironic that the games that I don't watch, he does specifically do exactly what I say. But I know for a fact that DeMar DeRozan throughout his entire career has been able to do that on a solid efficiency level. Now, with that said, if Shea made the All-Star team over tomorrow, I would not complain whatsoever. Shea better make the All-Star team next year. Matter of fact, because he is my biggest sleeper next year. He better make the All-Star team because I am rooting for that boy. He's tough. Like, he's gonna be tough. I promise you, he already is tough. But I think I would personally go with DeMar DeRozan ahead just because of that record, and I do think he has proven it with his playmaking ability. Wow, that was pretty long. With that said, though, that concludes my Mike Conley video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss a beat. Private KJ out.